Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of We Watch Shudder. My name is JD. Who's here with me?
It's Michele.
All the way from Arizona, from Scary Zona. from Phoenix. Are you in Phoenix?
I am in Phoenix. I am in a beautiful, very expensive part of Phoenix that I will never be able to afford living in.
Phoenix, scary. Well, if you're not living there, what are you doing? Robbing people? Is that why you're in Phoenix, to commit grand larceny? Is that?
Yeah. I just flew down here and I found a house and I was like, "This is my house now."
Oh, right on.
No, I am. I'm hanging out with the uncle who got me.
That's how the Americans did it, isn't it? They just came over here and they were like, "Well, this is our house now."
Well, you got really deep immediately. I guess we'll talk about American history for a while.
Real.
Got too real. That's the true scare from Scarizona.
Well,
but yeah,
we're done.
I'm hanging out. I'm hanging out with the uncle who got me into horror and watching horror movies.
Jeff.
Yeah, Uncle Jeff, and he gave me a lot of horror swag the second I walked in the door, so I'm having a great time.
Yeah, if you check out, I assume it's also on the Instagram, but on the Facebook, yeah. Michele put up some photos of some pretty rad stuff that Uncle Jeff hooked her up with, it's I am jealous as all get out about being out of far. I don't even care that you're in Phoenix specifically. What I care about is that you're not in fucking Fargo. I need to get out of this town for at least a weekend sometime very soon. There was like COVID and then more COVID and then life and so much life. And I have been here way too long. So I hope you're enjoying yourself, Michele.
I am going to ask Jeff if I can film him giving a tour of all of his horror items, because this place is packed.
Fabulous.
There's some cool stuff. Yeah, so
all
check out the social medias for that later, because his collection is sweet.
Sweet. So by the way, if this is your first time checking out We Watch Shudder, first of all, thank you. Second of all, We Watch Shudder. That's the whole point of the show. That's why we called it that. Shudder is a streaming service for what we call horror and horror-adjacent cinema, owned by AMC Networks, and they put out a lot of cool stuff. And we're just a couple of subscribers, not affiliated with them in any way, shape, or form. We pay our $6 a month to have access to all this grand content the same way any of you other regular old Joe Schmoes do. But we talk about new, original, and exclusives. When they don't have any new ones for us to talk about, we go back and talk about other movies. Sometimes people make special requests, and we talk about those movies. And that's what we're doing today, is it not, Michele?
That is correct. All the way from Scarizona.
Today
we are talking about Gonjiam Haunted Asylum.
Who made the request, Michele? Who made this special request? Kyle.
Kyle on Instagram. I don't know if he would like us to use the last name, so we're just going with Kyle. Just in case, don't need anybody hitting Kyle up and being
Kyle
like, hey, you got
Instagram.
Access to those sweet We Watch Shudder folks. And I had seen Gonjiam, and I knew that I figured you had not.
I had not.
So when I got the message from Kyle, I got very excited to watch this. So that's what we watched.
Did you get? Was it excited to watch the movie, or was it excited to make me watch the movie?
It was 100% 50-50. 50% of each.
It was that's perfect. I'm gonna steal that. It was 100% 50-50.
Go for it.
I like that. Yeah. So Gonjiam Haunted Asylum. To start off with, is a found footage horror movie, which we all know, if you've been here for a while, is not always JD's favorite kind of horror movie. There are some that I like. I'm not entirely opposed to the concept. It just doesn't often really work for me personally. And then also, it's a Korean film, which I have nothing against Korean films, but that means I gotta watch it with subtitles, which also is fine, but it's really frustrating because I have like weird focus issues, and I feel like if I'm reading subtitles a lot, I'm often missing some of the context. And then I might also be missing things that happen on the screen. Michele just loves to torture me with things that make me anxious.
Yeah.
But we watched this movie. Michele, should we tell people what this movie is about? Is there a good non-spoilery description in any of the places where we look?
There absolutely is one on IMDb. Shudder tends to give us too much information, so we're going with IMDb for this one. Would you like me to read the spoiler-free description from IMDb?
It would probably be a good idea if you read it on account of how I had never learned my letters.
Okay, perfect. We all famously know that JD does not know how to read
or
at all. Or write. Or speak. How are we doing this? Anyway.
Magic.
AI. The crew of a horror web series travels to an abandoned asylum for a live broadcast. It soon encounters much more than expected as it moves deeper inside the nightmarish old building. Gonjiam Haunted Asylum.
Right on. Also, I before we get into anything, I think it is cool to point out immediately about this movie that this is actually based on a real place. They talk in the movie about like CNN's 7 scariest places in the world. That was a real thing that CNN did, and this is a real place that was on it. And so with that in mind, it does have some interesting things going on here. Michele, I'm just gonna tell you. Do we want to build up the suspense, or should I just let everybody off the hook right away? Let's just call it on the air.
I know exactly how you feel about this movie,
Do you?
I think. So go ahead and tell me.
This movie was all right. I didn't hate it. It was, as found footage movies go, it does a few things that I actually really enjoyed. There's one thing in particular that this movie did that I'm pretty certain I've never seen in a found footage movie before. And when I finally saw it, I'm like, how the fuck did we make it to 2018 before somebody did this in a found footage movie? It's brilliant. There are bits of this movie that, as found footage movies go, there are parts of this that I really enjoyed. But as is the case with me sometimes, I feel like it's a little too long. It's a little too slow in places. It does a little too much of the parts that of found footage that really sort of separate me from a lot of it. Definitely did not hate it by any means. I'm going to give this one 3 out of 5.
That is exactly what I had written down as your score.
Nice.
I called it.
Nice. Get out of my head. Also, get out of my house. What are you doing here? Aren't you in... Never mind.
The whole Scarizona thing was an illusion. I live here now. Anyway.
Wow, we got really weird on a Tuesday.
What is your guess for my score, JD?
For Gonjiam Haunted Asylum, this seems right up your alley. I think you give this one a full 5.
Close.
Okay.
I give it a 4.75.
Oh, really? See, now I have
Yes.
to... This is a little peek behind the curtain on how JD's brain works, everybody. Now, I'm sitting over here. Oh, fuck you. You just went 4.75 because you knew I was going to guess 5 and you couldn't let me be right.
Actually, no, I did not think that you would predict that I would think it was a 5-star because this would not rank higher than Host, and Host was a 4.75.
Let me have, I forget the numbers actually mean something to you.
Yeah, everything is relative in my case. I did have to compare it to Host. I do still
That's
feel
fair.
bad that I did not give Host a 5. Someday we'll do a Host 2.0 and I will bump that score up because I did that one dirty and it was wrong just for 5 minutes of the movie. Anyway, this movie is similar to Host. There are some things that I didn't like. It just started out fairly slow, but when it picks up, oh boy, it picks up. It's able to get around a lot of the things that people who don't like found footage often complain about. It does find a good way to find a good balance. It doesn't even really feel found footagey at certain parts. It's just
Oh, we're going to
different
talk about that.
angles. Oh, yeah. Yep. So I love this movie. I am going 4.75. It scared the
Awesome.
shit out of me, and very few things do that these days.
4.75 and a 3 is a 7.75 total for a 3.625 average.
8.75.
Fuck!
I
Terrible at
know.
math.
That's okay. You did better than I would have. I forgot that 3.875 was a number.
Hey.
I wasn't even aware that was a number.
Well, those are all in numbers individual. Anyway, guys, so I guess what we're saying here is if you tend to enjoy found footage horror and you haven't seen Gonjiam Haunted Asylum, probably go see it before we spoil everything for you here. This is one you're probably going to enjoy. I'll point out right away that it has a 4 out of 5 skull average rating from all of the user reviews on Shudder. This is a well-enjoyed film, and for rightly so. And even if you're somebody who, again, like me, you're not completely against found footage, you're just real selective about the ones that you have and have not enjoyed, you may still want to give this one a look. It's got some real interesting stuff going on at times that I thought was real clever and creative. So, so now do we get to talk spoilers, Michele?
We do. So, audience members, if you're still here, thanks so much for making 10 minutes in. If you want to go check this out, which if you haven't seen it, it is at least worth watching once, because I think there are definitely things that you probably will enjoy, even if you don't watch it overall. There's a lot to appeal to a large variety of people, and there will be some things that I have never seen in other horror movies, so you probably haven't either.
Right.
So go check it out. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and get into spoiler country, right?
Spoiler country.
Now.
Hey, guys.
Okay.
Did you come back? Did you go watch the movie? What did you think, guys? I hope you did get something positive out of it if you did go watch it. Michele, you had seen this before we came in. I remembered. I almost forgot. We should probably give a quick summary of the plot for those people who decided they didn't want to watch this one.
Absolutely.
Yes, I'm getting better every week.
You're doing such a good job. You remembered something. I'm so proud. Anyway, this guy, Ha-Jun, he has a YouTube channel that I forgot the full name of. It was horror something. And he decides to get a group of people together, and they are going to go explore Gonjiam, the haunted asylum. And so he sends 6 people in there. They are putting up surveillance cameras. They are wearing, I don't know what they're called, but they're the cameras where they point at both your face and outwardly so you can see. I don't know what you call those, but when you see them, you'll be like, yeah, those things.
It was 2 separate GoPros, one pointing towards their face and one pointing away from them.
That's what it was. Okay. I did not realize that they were GoPros. I've just seen that in other things. But yeah, so you get to see their face and then see what they're looking at. And so they're in there and some weird stuff's happening. And then it turns out that 2 of the guys were hired by Ha-Jun to basically make things creepy, make them staged. But they are reporting to Ha-Jun that these things are actually happening, that they're not behind it. So Ha-Jun is sitting out in his little tent off site so that he can watch all of this going on, and he can, edit it together in real time as they are broadcasting it to the internet. Shit goes crazy. There are, I don't even really want to sum up what happens for people who didn't really watch it. Let's just say everybody disappears. And there is a lot of different reasons for that. They get drug off into the darkness a lot. They get attached to a wheelchair and then sent into a room that nobody else was able to open. There's a portal of water on the ceiling. There's a lot of different weird things going on in this. But everybody has a terribly bad demise. The end.
Yeah, that pretty much covers it. And you're not wrong there in any way. You said something there though where you didn't want to give away too much of what's going on here. I
do want to talk about those moments. I just don't want to sum it up.
Oh, I see.
I don't know how to say, because I would be like, oh, obviously the part where this happens is one of the best things.
No, because I was just
gonna say, I do want to talk about those things.
I was just going to say, well, that's fine. That's fine if that's how you want to do this one.
No, I have to talk about them.
I'm going to spoil fucking everything.
Mm-hmm.
So... just to start kind of from the top, by the way, it's the Horror Times is the name of their channel.
Thank you.
And they are the Terror Squad, the Horror Times Terror Squad. First of all, very interesting setup here. these three ladies show up at this place, and then the three dudes from the show show up, and then the fourth dude who's there on his own shows up. And so you realize, I don't know, from that moment I was like, okay, so 3 of these 7 people are the people from the podcast or the YouTube channel or whatever it is. And these other 4, the 3 ladies and the other dude, are just random people from the public or whatever that they've brought in to do this. There's going to be some shenanigans here. I know how ghost hunters and stuff works. I'm not a dummy. So there were parts of where this was going I really saw coming. Something they played up in the opening here, though, and this is part of actually something that frustrated me about this movie, is the dynamic between Ahyun, and I apologize, I'm going to brutalize these names. I'm not really familiar with Korean pronunciations. I'm sorry. But Ahyun, the very bookish, innocent, of the most innocent and bookish of the 3 young ladies, and Jae-yoon, the fourth guy who shows up. The number of times he says, we should send her home in that first 15 to 20 minutes, it just felt like they were putting that into your mind to build to some major callback or payoff somewhere down the line, and no, it just it was just there in that one scene, and then I guess she teases him a little bit later on when it turns out he might be a little bit more timid and scare prone than maybe he's let on. But that never played into any, it just kind of happened and then it was gone. I was a little disappointed about that.
Well, I'm sorry that you were disappointed. I was not disappointed. I don't give a fuck about what happens for the first half hour of this movie. You can just skip a half hour in. Screw it, just watch from there.
That's the point, Michelle. Why do we even watch? Why is the first half hour even here? Because you're not wrong. You said
it definitely...
Go ahead.
Sorry. Oh, I was just going to say, it definitely builds that tension where you kind of start thinking this movie isn't going to be that extreme because they would be putting in scary parts. It kind of lulls you into a false sense of security, and I think that's why it works so well because, full disclosure, the first time I started watching this, I'm in Phoenix, I'm relaxing, and I fell asleep. But I'd seen it before. I was so comfortable. I am in my zone here. The first time I saw this movie ever, I actually watched it with my Uncle Jeff here in Phoenix, so it felt very fitting that I would be doing it again. But the first night I fell asleep until the part where they hear that very loud door shutting in the asylum, and I jolted awake. I went, I was like, okay guys, I'm falling asleep, okay, good night. But up until that point it's so calming and nothing is happening that I drifted off, and from that point on shit is wacky.
Well, it's interesting you say that, Michelle, because one person's calming and lulling you into a sense of false security is another person's boring as fuck. I'm not gonna lie, guys. The first Michelle said something in the spoiler-free section that I'm gonna repeat in a different from a different perspective with a little bit of a different tone to it. What she said was the movie is a little slow and takes a little while to get going, but once it gets going, it really goes. And she's not wrong. This movie is boring as fuck for too long. There's so much nothing that happens except for that one little dynamic that they never paid off, and I'm still upset about it. That by the time they do, I do want to talk about that door slam, because that door slam scared the fuck out of me, the dog, the cage of 7 baby rats sitting in my living room. That door slam is as jump scares go, they fucking earned it, but they earned it in the most grueling way. I just the first half hour of this movie could be 5 minutes. So that's enough of that. I do agree with you. When this movie gets going, it does get fucking going. Tell me about some of your favorite moments once all the fucking shit starts to kick in.
Absolutely. So I adore Charlotte. I love her so much. She is the one from America, I believe. So she speaks English and she just pops that into random conversations, which I laughed at all the time because imagine that I spoke French and I'd just be like, bonjour, and then keep going on. Like it's that cute little like bilingual thing she throws into stuff. And I just love Charlotte where she's like, yeah. And everybody else is speaking completely different language. I love Charlotte. I thought she was very fun and lovable. So then when her shit gets wacky, it hit me a lot harder. First off, before I get to my favorite part of this movie, when they are trying to escape in the woods and suddenly the one girl gets possessed and her eyes go black and she does the blah, 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 blah thing. Like, I've heard from multiple people that that's terrifying. To me, it's just silly, but it's also very unnerving. I don't know what to make of it. What do you feel about that?
I wouldn't call it scary. Like, to me, it wasn't like a jump scare or like a scream. But yes, I would describe it as creepy as fuck. Like,
yeah,
it's this real, like, it very much takes advantage of the uncanny valley effect, right? Mm-hmm. Because very clearly they've digitally manipulated the face to make the eyes bigger now on the face, and they're all just shiny black pits all the way through. And she's got that real almost digital jitter to her giggle. Yeah, very unnerving and weird, and it's one of those things where I'm like, nope, don't want to watch any more of that. Nope, thanks, that's okay. You can take that off the screen anytime you like. That's it's creepy and unnerving, and it is one of my more favorite parts of the film. Absolutely.
I think I enjoy it because up until that point, I don't think there's really been anything that like is outside of traditional ghost hauntings, things moving, doors slamming, all of that. Then that happens and you're like, wait a minute, so we're dealing with possession potentially, and then suddenly Charlotte is transported into a different room. There's that bright light. All of this stuff is happening so quickly and we're like, oh, this is not going to be a traditional just jump scare ghost movie. This is transcending everything else that we've seen in this kind of film, which does get me to my favorite scene.
But before we do that,
sorry,
yes, you did just mention something that I wanna get your perspective on. So
yes,
so we're talking about that sequence where the two ladies, Charlotte and I'm sorry, I don't remember which one was the other one.
I don't remember either. I'm sorry.
But they take off from the place.
Asylum.
They're like, we're piecing the fuck out. We've had enough of this shit. And out they go. Ji-hyun, that's the other one. And they're going out to leave the asylum and go back through the woods or whatever to their base camp. And they get to that area where all that stuff from the floor of the lab is there in the woods.
Yep.
And that's when Ji-hyun turns into the almost like Momo face crazy lady. And then there's the bright light. And then now we've got Charlotte back at she just is suddenly like back in the asylum in a weird place she's never been before. Do you think, because this is the idea that hit me, and it's all based on those factors, the stuff on the ground in the woods being from the lab, and then she just suddenly comes to in another part of the asylum. Do you think that Charlotte and Ji-hyun ever actually left the asylum?
I did wonder that because with the stuff on the ground from the lab, which I had forgotten to mention, that did lend to the theory that she had somehow in passing just remembered that, or she was unconscious and came to in this room. The reason that I prefer to think that they were outside and then transported back in is just because that's more fucked up.
Oh,
that's
sure.
it. I don't know for sure which way. I do think that there is absolutely a possibility that they never left, but it's just so much scarier if they did and somehow got put back in that I just went with that as my preferred theory.
Right on. No, that's fine. But yeah, I was just curious about that because you can see it both ways. But I thought that was an interesting part of this. So go ahead. Your favorite part of the film?
Yes, that is when Charlotte winds up in that room and she sees I think he's naked. Maybe he was wearing underwear. He was not wearing much clothes, if any. I don't remember. Just standing there in that creepy pose. And that is where the thing that makes this movie work.
Not just a creepy pose, Michele, but he's cut in half. Right? Like
what?
there's some sort of weird like red bloody gore line down the center of his body.
I believe you. I think I was so freaked out that I did not look that closely.
So like I guess I don't know if I would say he's cut in half. I tell you what, you keep talking about it. I'm going to pull it up on the video here real quick and see what I can find out.
Perfect. Yes, please do that. Because either way, he creeped me out so much. I did not want to look directly at him. But that is where one of the techniques that this movie uses really gets to shine and I think is used in the most effective manner. And that is these GoPros that are pointed directly at their face. That is something that found footage is lacking a lot. Usually you have the camera and it's being filmed from the perspective of the person who is scared. You don't get to see their reaction to what is going on. Watching Charlotte, the actress who played her, did such a good job of being terrified, and that constant shifting between her perspective and her trying to look away from it to find the door and then looking back and has it moved, and then we cut to see her face, and the entire time we're watching her be terrified, but we're like, has it moved? Go back, let us see. It's not this unbroken shot that we usually get in found footage movies, and I think that's why that works so well for me, is that person standing there in that room is such a just unnatural pose. That's what a lot of this does. It's not just a person standing there. A lot of this movie is they found a way to take just the simplest thing and make it extra terrifying with those details. So that scene terrified me the first time I saw it.
Yeah, I first of all, I absolutely agree with you. Those GoPro harnesses with the twin cameras, one shooting directly at their face and the other showing you what they're looking at. First of all, it's a brilliant modern technology application of one of the oldest tricks in the book. Alfred Hitchcock used to refer to it as the pure cinema technique. You show a person, you show the thing they're looking at, and then you show their reaction to it, right? And that you're absolutely right. That is something that found footage has been missing for a long time, is you're not able to seamlessly move in and out of experience and facial reaction. And so, yeah, I did think that was a real clever thing here. Now, I did find, I don't know if I would say he's cut completely in half, but he does have, at the very least, some sort of very significant wound all the way down the center of his torso.
Yes, I did remember a wound. I did not remember cut in half, and I don't think I don't honestly think I was looking that closely, because looking at that figure freaks me out.
Well, and
so
I do,
and the way it shuffles to the side.
Yeah, it was very creepy, very effectively done. Not necessarily rewriting any books or anything. It's but it's very effectively done and real creepy. My favorite, it's and part of what is wild about it to me is it's such a throwaway thing, but it's or not even throwaway. It's a very quick thing, but it's something I have never seen in a found footage movie before. And once once he says the line that brings it all together, it just hits me. I'm like, that's fucking brilliant. Why has nobody ever done that? It's the scene where the dude in the tent is reviewing some of the footage.
I know exactly what you're about to mention.
And all of a sudden, there's a shot on the screen with a bunch of people in it, and he pauses it and he says, "Wait a minute." He's there and she's there and runs through all their names, and he says, "If they're all in the shot, who's fucking shooting the shot?" And I just, what the fuck? He's got a point. I thought that was such a brilliant reveal that something fucked up is going on here for real. Like that moment where Ha-Jun has that revelation, and the way he has that revelation. Now, it then again, it's something that they don't try to blend back in any way and create the idea, but it does now put this entire sort of context over the entire film of once they're inside the asylum, how much of what Ha-Jun is seeing and what we're seeing is being like how much of this has been manipulated. Like I don't know. It's I really enjoyed that moment so much. I thought it was brilliant.
And that does also tie into where it shows later that it was being manipulated because the broadcast had cut off for people who were watching it, and very few people were watching it. It wasn't 1 million viewers. Right. It was less than 1,000, and somehow this thing manipulated that connection to convince Ha-Jun to go in.
Okay, so I completely missed that with the numbers of viewers. Like, I remember that scene where it all just cuts off. I didn't see the number. I didn't notice that. I was like, oh, that's a weird little tag there. Because as we're watching the movie, it does just suddenly cut off. And so I just took it as like, oh, they just cut it off at random, and that's where it's going to end, and they'll never say it. Like it'll just be over, and it was such a phony thing. I didn't catch that with the numbers or anything. Oh my God!
Yeah there were awesome. Like 500 or 600 people watching it, and they're just like, wow. After they confessed that it was staged, they just cut it off. What a failure! So it wasn't even this huge broadcast like Ha-Jun had thought it was. Quick fun trivia for people who might be interested in this thing, but Ha-Jun was played by Wee Ha-Jun. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. I really, truly care. But Ha-Jun was also in Squid Game, which I know everybody, is such a huge fan of Squid Game. It was kind of one of those phenomenal things that everybody was talking about for a while. And he plays a huge part in that show. So if you have watched Squid Game, then you have also seen Ha-Jun on that as well. He also won a lot of awards for his role in this movie, or at least I think he was nominated. He might not have won. And then the movie actually did win some awards for best editing, both of which feel very, very earned.
Right on. Yeah, this was... you know what, Michelle? In light of the fact that I completely missed out on that context of the ending there, I do think that is a very clever ending, and I wish I had understood that. Let's bump this up from a 3 to a 3.5 for me.
Nice.
I like that. I totally missed that detail, because I'm actually just, when you said that, I was like, wait, huh? And I pulled up Wikipedia here, and it says, yes, the epilogue shows that despite everyone's continued broadcast, the live stream had actually cut off after Sung-hoon admitted the stream was supposed to be scripted. The viewers, had not gotten anywhere near one. Yeah, and see, that's what had confused me, is because I saw the subtitles saying something about things just cutting off.
Yep.
But I didn't fully catch the specifics of what was happening there, and I definitely didn't see the view numbers. That is, I like that a lot. That's
Awesome.
very clever. Yeah.
I'm happy this got up to 4.125. I feel like 4 is a very good spot for this movie to be at. It scared the shit out of me. I'm not scared very often. Found footage seems to be the only thing these days that can really cross that line. And this one didn't terrify me as much the second time, but the first time I was very, very scared.
yeah. It was. It definitely has its moments here. Again. For me, could have definitely been a bit shorter. We could have done without a whole lot of the stuff up front, but you're absolutely right. Once this one gets going, it gets going pretty significantly. So, Kyle, is that his name? Kyle, did I get it right?
Yeah.
Kyle from Instagram. Right. That's where he lives, actually. He lives in Instagram.
Kind of like the ghost from Gonjiam.
Right.
He's in Instagram and
and
haunting.
Instagram.
What if our
app,
metrics,
yes.
our metrics for how many podcast listeners we have, what if he's manipulating them and it's actually not as high as we think it is, and it's just trying to trick us into going, I don't know, to Instagram? Where physically would we go?
God damn it, Michelle!
Now you're going to be thinking that you're like, God damn it, Kyle, you're manipulating our numbers.
Is any of
and
this
you can't
real?
make them look higher. None of this is
real.
real.
Is the dog
Life
real?
is an illusion. Life is a simulation.
Oh my
Wake
God.
up from the coma. Your family misses you. That's one of my biggest fears. Truly it is, and I probably should not admit that to a wide range of people. But
I'm so glad that you used the word coma, because you sparked a memory of a very just passing moment in this that I'm sure is just a curious moment in the translation for the subtitles. But there's a moment when one of they're in the asylum and they're doing their lines and everything, telling the story of the place, and one of them lists 3 different outcomes that everyone who has tried to go into room 402 has, and it's the 3 different things are, and what got to me about it was they were in this order: freakish suicides, fallen into comas, or died in accidents. Like, you'd think they would build up the like, maybe just the freakish suicides. Also, some of them went into comas. What? I don't know. That it just struck me as hilarious. And I'm just realizing now that maybe I was the only one in the world who was going to think that was funny, and I just maybe had a cool story bro moment. It's okay, Michelle. I'll be fine.
it's okay. In this simulation, I think that you are hilarious. I am living in the computer, and I am increasing the metrics on our listeners, which honestly, like, I would put it in the millions if it was me in the computer, obviously.
I love that I keep having memories of this.
Oh my God, I just need to keep talking and making that happen.
This movie does have, again, just a moment that I really appreciated. One of the greatest horror pratfalls I've ever seen. I don't remember which one of them is, but there's that scene where the one dude is like running, and it's kind of an overhead-ish camera, and the dude's running down a hallway towards a door at the end of the hallway, and the door slams shut just as he gets there, and he face plants right into the fucking thing. It's not supposed to be funny, but I laugh so fucking much.
Are you okay, JD?
I'm good. It was just, I loved it. I thought it was so dumb, but it was fantastically well done. I was like, holy shit, look, it was great. It was great.
It sure was.
Way too damn much of this movie up front, but it's a lot of fun on the back end.
Yeah. I think that's basically everything I have to say about it.
Yeah, for sure. Guys,
it's very fun.
Yeah, and again, if you maybe you were foolish enough to let us spoil all of that for you, maybe go back and watch it anyway if you think it sounded like a good time. Maybe you'll still be able to enjoy it knowing everything that's going on. I think I'm also very satisfied that we were able to get that up to an aggregate 4 point whatever skulls. It was definitely a lot better. I had a lot more fun with this than I thought I was going to. So I want to make it clear that even though I'm saying that for me personally, a good chunk of this movie was kind of boring, my overall experience is still very, very fun. It's a good time. I think you should see it.
It makes up for it.
Woohoo! I made up for my shortcomings. Take that, karma.
40 minutes into this is probably a bad time to mention that I really hope the audio from this episode is good enough to be released.
Why?
Oh, because I put my podcast equipment in my suitcase and my microphone makes a fun rattling noise. And if we just recorded this whole thing for 40 minutes and then we find out that my audio doesn't work.
Oh, it's going out, rattling noises or not, Michelle.
I know. So I'm so sorry
out.
if you made it through the whole thing and it's awful. Thanks, TSA. Appreciate it.
Well, I mean, TSA didn't put your
list.
podcasting gear in your bag.
I thought it would be safe. It was wrapped. Everything survived except for my microphone.
I'm sure it's gonna be fine, Michelle.
I hope so. I'm just an anxious human.
So what do we got coming up next week here on the pod?
I don't know how to pronounce it yet, but I believe we have Husera, the Bone Woman.
Okay, yes, that sounds about right. That reminds me, I need to update that website. The website, by the way, is wewatchshudder.com. As soon as we're done recording here, I'm going to go update the schedule of upcoming episodes at least through the end of May. And you can check that out. It's got a variety of fun things on there. Always our latest episodes, a schedule of upcoming things. We have the Ghoul blog where Michelle and I occasionally post things. Side note, by the way, keep your eyes on the Ghoul blog. I'm going to be making a post up there about some thoughts about the new Evil Dead film, Evil Dead Rise, and also just some general thoughts about the franchise as a horror fan. And that'll be going up hopefully later this week. We have the Squelch Files, if you know anything about this show.
I have.
Well, Michelle has a lot of problems. Is what if you know anything about this show.
I do. I had to explain it to my uncle yesterday when I went, ooh, that movie has a lot of squelches. And
it's
he went,
so squelchy.
What does that mean? And I went, first off, you don't listen to my podcast. Thanks for that. But secondly, that's just my collection of any subtitle that says squelching, squelches, squelched. And there are a lot of those out there, and I have made it my goal to find all of them and put it on our website. And the other day, I was watching a movie that I was enjoying, but I kept having to pause and go back to get the squelching subtitles. There were 12 total in that movie, and it kind of made me hate my obsession with doing this because I just wanted to watch the movie. It was fun, but it just kept squelching.
How many total freeze frame images of squelches in the subtitles of movies and shows do we currently have up on the website, Michelle?
Currently on the website, it's somewhere around 490. I do have around 40 saved to my computer, and this does not count my list of ones that I haven't been able to get a good enough screenshot to upload, and there are about 100 of those. But I do have them on a list.
So check out those numbers and understand, guys, how this started. Is I sent Michelle one screen grab. I don't even remember what the movie was because it was just a completely black screen. You couldn't in the movie at that moment see anything. There was audio happening, and on the screen it's just a black screen with a subtitle. It says squelching. From that image, I have created a monster. That image, it's that word. That.
Well, that image is the reason that when I was shopping for a way to put these all on the website, that took weeks, by the way, to figure that out, and an indexing system. But I did have to create tags so that people can see similar types of squelching subtitles, like ones that are prime time, meaning that a lot of people have probably seen that movie or TV show. But there is a category where you can click it and it says invisible squelches, and that's ones where you can't see anything. It's just a black screen or just a white screen or whatever it may be. So there are invisible squelches because of that image.
What have I done?
I have never claimed to be sane. I have actually done the opposite.
So anyway,
I have always been open about it.
You can find that on WeWatchShutter.com. There are some people right now who are like, Jesus, we've heard this story 15 fucking times. How many times are they going to tell it? As many as we want to. Deal with it. I'm just kidding. So check
as many as it takes for you to go look at them and send me a message and tell me I did a good job. That's all I need.
You can send her that message, by the way, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Another
TikTok,
nice segue.
All of those social medias. You can find us just at We Watch Shudder. It's real easy to find us, guys. If you still do the email thing with any regularity, you can get us mail at WeWatchShutter.com. Thank you all so much for putting up with our absurdity week after week. We really appreciate it. Husera, the Bone Woman, next week.
I would, before we close, I do need to let them know the other contact method that you omitted mentioning.
She's gonna let you know.
It's just one more. I know you always forget this in our episodes, but if you stand outside on a windy night when the moon is full and face towards the south, if you whisper our names, we will show up. So that is the other way that you can contact us.
Say goodnight, Michele.
Good night, Michele.